On the line with us, Neil McCabe, editor of the Guns and Patriots newsletter, senior reporter over at Human Events, gunsandpatriots.com, the website. Neil, welcome back to the program.
Great to be with you, Tom.
Great to have you. And hey, your Skype is working. I'm looking at, this is from the Organic Consumers Association, organicconsumers.org. The USDA reports that animals in the U.S. meat industry produce 61 million tons of waste each year, 130 times the volume of human waste, or 5 tons for every U.S. citizen. North Carolina's 7 million factory-raised hogs create 4 times as much waste as the state's 6.5 million people. According to the EPA, hog, chicken, and cattle waste has polluted 35,000 miles of rivers in 22 states. And apparently all this started out with a guy named Wendell Murphy, a North Carolina state senator back in the 70s, who started passing, when he was a pig farmer, a small-time pig farmer. He went to Congress in North Carolina, started passing state laws that made it illegal for communities to zone large farms out. And at the same time, he was contracting with a bunch of his former colleagues, pig farmers, to construct massive pig sheds in violation of local zoning laws, which he was knocking down at the state level. And the consequence of this was that by 2001, there were only 92,000 independent pig farmers left in the United States. He started a trend that went from state to state, and then federal, largely Republicans, started passing these federal laws saying that local communities could not regulate this. And today, 99.9% of chickens, 97% of chickens for eggs, 99% of turkey, 95% of pigs, and 78% of cattle come out of these factory farms. And in each one of those categories, no more than 5 companies, typically 3, control more than 90% of the entire marketplace. This is not good, Neil.
Well, no, of course we want these legacy family farms, just if not for their economic benefits, certainly for what they do for our culture, and that's sort of the roots of America is these sort of family farms. I think you're sort of glossing over the fact that there were cases where sort of new people would move into pig country and basically try to zone out the farmers who had been, their family had been, farming there for generations. And I think you're also forgetting the damage.
No, Neil, wait a minute. You're missing the timeline. If that happened before 1970,
I understand your timeline, and he's different. But there are also cases where people have moved into pig country, and they have, on the other side, it's been the reverse of your timeline. Maybe not as big a trend, but it certainly.
Well, no, I saw this in Oregon. It was developers moving into wine country in that case, and freaking out the wine farmers. They were building 300, 400, 500 home subdivisions in what used to be very, very rural areas, and they were bringing all kinds of development to the area, and it was ruining the area for the wine. But
all those nitrates, frankly.
Well, yeah, I mean the water actually. There were water pollution problems because they were pulling water out of the local table, and they were also processing their water through septic systems that were somehow contaminating. But if it wasn't for these laws, what's the word for them? ALEC has a bunch of them that they're proposing. Preemption laws, I think they're called. The American Legislative Exchange Council, the Koch brothers are promoting these things where it says that a local community cannot pass a law saying that the Koch brothers can't run a dirty paper factory there.
Well, for instance, say if a state has certain gun freedoms, preemption says that a local community cannot override a state
right, and
law.
This is what has been happening since the 70s with regard to factory farms. Nobody wants to live near a factory farm. They destroy property values. But, once enough of these laws were passed saying the local communities had no control, no ability to do their zoning any longer because we at the state level know what's best for you. This has destroyed small home-based farms. This whole preemption thing, I would think that this is something that you would get behind, saying, "Hey, let's do away with these preemption laws."
This is very awkward for me, Tom, because I think we agree, and it's making me very uncomfortable. I'm not sure. Jefferson's sort of agrarian democracy says you get the government as close to the people as possible.
Yeah.
I do think, though, that certainly the estate tax has whacked family farms in a way that maybe some of the people who are for the estate tax weren't anticipating.
I don't think that you can name more than 2 in the last 2 decades, more than 2 family farms that have been lost as a consequence of the estate tax.
Well, maybe they're all gone.
Pretty much doesn't happen. No, it's that, first of all, it doesn't even affect you. It doesn't even affect you if your farm's worth less than $5 million. And if it's worth more than $5 million, there are very, very easy ways to totally avoid having it go through probate. You simply put it into a family trust. It's not a big deal.
I think that the important thing is that throughout the economy, throughout history, there's centralizing and decentralizing trends. Unfortunately, what happens is something becomes centralized, and then the natural forces that would decentralize it are blocked off by government regulation and crony capitalism and bizarre tax laws that are written by insiders. And so that natural back and forth doesn't occur. I'm always concerned when you have really extreme centralization. You remember the old line, Caligula screaming at the crowd saying that he wished that Rome had one neck. And, when you have all of your eggs coming, what was your number, 5 producers produce all the eggs, that's literally one neck controlling our egg supply, not just economically, but for safety-wise,
right,
for food safety.
Qualitatively.
For someone to get in there. Absolutely.
Yeah. I just the bigger is better does not make sense to me, and the big problem that we have in this republic is that because the Supreme Court, starting in '76 with the Buckley case, has said that it is perfectly legal to buy politicians. Now we have industries competing with each other for the politicians, or we have politicians who are more than willing to take money from multiple industries. Hey, I'll take money from the pig farmers. I'll take money from the chicken farmers. I'll take money from the oil industry.
You're always going to have competing elites. The problem is that you just have to expose it and make a better argument. I mean, there's a lot.
No, you ban it. In 1907, Teddy Roosevelt got legislation passed through Congress, the Tillman Act, which did not fall until 2010. Citizens United overturned the Tillman Act, but this was a federal law on the books since 1907 that said it is a felony, 5 years in prison, for any corporation to give money to a candidate for federal office, and if they do so, not only does the corporation suffer severe penalties, but the CEO and members of the board of directors and the senior executives can go to prison.
Yeah, but you also had Roosevelt was also working against companies, and he was basically tying their hands. I mean, they were telling them you can't participate.
Right, because they had corrupted our democracy, our republic.
Yeah, but if I'm going after you, you should have the right to defend yourself and come back after me. I mean, Roosevelt talked about being in the ring, but he basically told the guy, you can be in the ring, but you can't throw a punch.
Well, no, that's a lousy metaphor. I'd say the metaphor is that business is a game like football, and somebody has to define the rules of the game. If you don't have the rules of the game, business people can't play the game, and the game doesn't work. And what had happened was that the rules of the game had been redefined by the very wealthy, by the robber barons in the late 1800s, to the point where little guys were getting pushed out in industry after industry, and the big guys were buying the political system. And Teddy Roosevelt reversed that. And I think we're right back there right now.
Well, I mean, I think there's a lot of good things going on right now. And, you talk about the Koch brothers. It's interesting that the Koch brothers spend the vast amount of their money for libertarian organizations and causes and candidates who are literally trying to defang the government.
Well, yes and no. I mean, they're very selective in this defanging, Neil. ALEC is actually promoting preemption bills. This is not defanging the government. This is anyway. Neil, we're out of time. I think we've both had our say here on this. Neil McCabe, gunsandpatriots.com. Thanks for dropping by, Neil.
Hey, good to be with you, Tom.
Always talking. Good talking with you. We'll be back.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
It's amazing that it really wasn't until the 1970s that there was even one factory farm in America, because no community would have them.